You're listening to an archived Cabral Concept podcast. After listening to this show, check out the most up-to-date podcasts available at stephencabral.com/podcasts or search directly on iTunes. And now, welcome to the Cabral Concept, where board-certified naturopath and integrative health practitioner Dr. Stephen Cabral shares how he was diagnosed at the age of 17 with a life-altering illness and given no hope for recovery. It was only after studying and traveling all over the world did he discover how to combine ancient Ayurvedic healing practices with state-of-the-art naturopathic and functional medicine to fully rebalance the body and re-energize it with life. It's time to discover how to get well, lose weight, and finally feel alive again. And now, here's your host, Dr. Stephen Cabral.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Cabral Concept. Great to have you with me here today. Looking forward to getting into our Wellness and Weight Loss Wednesday show. We have a brand new case study for you. Not too many shows back, on episode 1062, we did a separate case study, and I asked people, would you like to hear more case studies directly from our clinical practice where we work with people all over the world? And it seemed to be a resounding yes. So what I want to do today is I want to share with you a person right now that is struggling with a set of symptoms that I think many people can relate to. So what I want to do is I want to share their symptoms with you. I want to give you, and so that you can begin to understand how you can look deeper within the body, past all of the surface level symptoms to what's really going on. The goal of every integrative health practitioner, naturopathic doctor, functional medicine practitioner is to look at the body in a different way, is to say, yes, we understand that we can test for autoimmune disease, we can test for cancer, we can test for high cholesterol, we can test for high blood pressure, but what do you do? How do you find the reason why someone with low mood or stress or fatigue or brain fog or low thyroid, but maybe not Hashimoto's, maybe not a TSH high enough to be put on thyroid medication, or someone that's a little slow to get going, a little bit sluggish? How do you figure out what's wrong with them? Because if you test them and you look at their blood work, well, your typical PCP or MD, and again, it's no offense, but they're not going to have an answer for you. And the reason is that your blood work looks too good, which means that you are then all of a sudden considered healthy. And I talked about this yesterday. I did it on my Instagram post for yesterday's show, quite a controversial show, and I'm okay with that. I don't do controversial shows for the sake of creating controversy. I do them because I have a mission to complete, and whether people enjoy the message, it doesn't vibe with them or not, is not the point. The point is to always share the truth and the truth that I've seen, and really from my perspective of integrating all forms of medicine. So when I see people promoting a carnivore-based diet for life, I get pretty worried. And so what I do is I try to come out with shows just to show you the other side of the story. Well, it's the same thing with conventional medicine. I'm not against conventional medicine. I'm not against blood work. I have everyone in my practice run their blood work annually. And then when they're over the age of 50, we run it twice a year, every 6 months. If there's an issue, we'll correct the issue and we will retest the blood work in 12 weeks. To make sure they're okay again. You don't want to wait a year to make sure that the work you did is correct, right? So that's blood work. That's fine. But remember, and just like I talked about on yesterday's show, you can use a carnivore-based diet to get rid of your bloating, to get rid of your joint pain, those types of issues. But at the same time, that's akin to using a statin for high cholesterol, to use a diuretic or a beta blocker or calcium channel blocker to lower someone's blood pressure. It's the same thing. It is a Band-Aid based approach. And the problem with that is that no matter what, those consequences are going to rear their ugly head in the future. They can't help but not to. You might have shut down one mechanism, but what happened is you're creating a different dysfunction and dis-ease of the body. Because when you totally eliminate a macro, in this case carbohydrates, and replace it with additional protein or meat, you're going to create an imbalance. Again, not within weeks, probably not even within months, but it will happen within years, and then you're going to be that much off, especially gut function-wise. And if you're off gut function-wise, you're absolutely going to be off with mood, and you're going to be off with absorption, you're going to be off with immunity. There's no way around that. And for the most part, you're going to eat carbohydrates again. Let's not pretend this game of like, let's not eat carbs. Okay, fun game. Let's do that for a couple weeks. But what happens? Well, you eat carbs again. The problem is now you're most likely even less sensitive to the effects of carbohydrates. So Or you're more sensitive, meaning like when you eat those carbohydrates, your blood sugar is most likely going to spike to an even greater degree. So the way to use keto or carnivore, any of those things, if you even choose to, is shorter term while looking for a longer term health. And it's the same thing with blood work. We run our blood work and it's most likely fine. Does that mean you're healthy? Does that mean you are healthy? No, because the absence of disease does not equal health. Just want to repeat that one more time. So when you go to your doctor, and you have a lot of symptoms, and they run your blood work, and they say you're fine, you say, how can that be, right? I've got skin rashes, I've got headaches, I've got low mood, I'm tired all the time, I'm stressed, low libido, no energy, no life in this body. How is this possible? How can this be? Well, it's because blood work only tests for disease. It does not look at these subclinical levels of where disease begins to manifest itself on a bottom-based level. So I actually did a podcast on this, the 6 phases of disease. I hope that you go back and you tune into that. It's really based around a topic called homotoxicology, which is a form of bioregulatory medicine. I believe originally created in Germany. It's something that I've studied quite in depth. Just off the top of my head, it's not, the origins of it are not sticking in my head, but I believe the origins of Germany. I love bioregulatory medicine. I often consider myself more of a bioregulatory medicine practitioner than anything else. And the reason is I'm looking at how do I regulate the biology of the body, right? Bioregulatory. It might just sound like a fun and fancy word, but really I'm looking at regulating systems within the body, systems within the physiology, the anatomy, the biology of the body. That's what I'm looking to do. And what we talk about then is we say, okay, we're going to run labs that are going to show us what it means to even get a disease in the first place. Meaning that before I ever got Addison's disease or rheumatoid arthritis or type 2 diabetes or POTS or myalgic encephalomyelitis or debilitating seasonal allergies or any number of things that I was diagnosed with, before I had any of those, had I run some subclinical lab tests that you can do with a local practitioner, you can do them right online, you can do them wherever you want. That's the nice thing about 2019 is that it's no longer 1999, when I was trying to run these, okay? So there's a big difference. It's 20 years later. Big difference. So here's the thing. You will never see these things on blood work because blood work isn't going to test for them unless you specifically ask your PCP, and even then, they're not going to do what we're about to talk about today, which is a hair tissue mineral analysis. Just one more side note is this. The reason I contacted my mentor is because she was speaking in a language that I'm trying to relate to you today. I'm always trying to do all of my mentors and all of my teachers, the masters I studied with from all around the world, justice. I'm always trying to pass on their legacy. I mean, it's what they've taught, and my job was this. If I have one job and one mission, it's saying, okay, there are so many magnificent teachers out there, so much brilliance, so much wisdom. How can I take that? How can I take all of it? Because I want all of it, and I want to share that with our community. So how can I take all that information, put it in one concise system? And I feel like we've done that with our practice. But the other thing is this, it's in the Rain Barrel Effect. It's in that book. That book contains how I practice my form of integrative health, which is meaning this: no one form is any better than the other. And never exclude any type of medicine that could help people even in the short term, which is why I don't exclude pharmaceuticals in the short term if needed for what? Life-saving conditions. Never for chronic-based issues, never for issues where life is not in jeopardy. That's my philosophy. Yours may be different. And that also goes with, I understand keto and I understand carnivore. I know exactly why people are doing it, and I empathize with that. You'll hear that on yesterday's show, 1089. If you're following along, today is episode 1090. So 1090, StephenCabral.com/1090. I will link up all the show notes there. So what I want to share with you right now is someone that came into our practice. This is actually just online. We didn't meet with them ever in person. They are 5 feet 4 inches tall, 168 pounds. And if you're over in Australia, you can do the conversion. I'm not the best at the conversion, but 5 feet 4 inches tall, 168 pounds, female. And they came in with these symptoms: irregular menstrual cycle. Sometimes they would get their cycle and some months not. Some months it's shorter, some months it's a little longer. They're having difficulty losing weight or keeping the weight off. They have high levels of stress. They have lower mood, fatigue, brain fog, low thyroid, some rosacea, which is a form of a skin rash on the face, although it's below the skin. Lower libido, they wrote down, and slow to get going in the morning. So those are the symptoms. And the reason I wanted to share with you is because what I do with my health coaching team is we get hundreds of labs in, and what I like to do is my team gathers all of the information and they gather all of the labs that people have purchased. And what I do is I look over, and my team knows exactly, we've got a great system. And what they do is they put in the person's height, their weight, their age, and I just want to see symptoms in terms of bullet points because I have to read hundreds of labs. And I'm happy to do that. I actually very much enjoy it. And then what they do below that is they write down their recommendations based on all the labs the person ran. And then what I do is I read over the labs, and then I verbally give my recommendations, and 9.5 times out of 10, my health coaching team, which are certified by me, are right on the money. They're perfect. They've got it, which is great. And then if they wrote something else, I might say, why did you do that? Because I'm not meaning that it was wrong, but I'd love to get their insight as well. And I'm like, oh, you know what? That's a good point. I love the back and forth with health coaches and integrative health practitioners. And this is what we're training, right? So we have our integrative health practitioner certification. Just go to integrativehealthpractitioner.org if this stuff interests you, because remember, you don't need to be a licensed doctor or nurse or acupuncturist. There's no problem with that. We teach probably 30% of the people that join IHP do have a medical background, but over 2/3 do not. And they're people that just want to get into health coaching and helping people at this level. Well, for this particular case study, this person they just purchased it at equilibriumnutrition.com. What they purchased was a hair tissue mineral analysis. Now, when I give these case studies, you do not need to purchase a lab from equilibriumnutrition.com. I'm not even asking you to. What I want you to know is that there's a whole world of possibilities out there for you. Well beyond blood work. Blood work is not the answer. Blood work is an absolute must for a test to run once a year. But for the most part, like I said, you're not going to find anything too interesting unless the rain barrel has already started to fill up, right? You'll find then, the anemia. You'll find the high liver enzymes. You'll find the high cholesterol. But for the most part, everything's just kind of borderline, and so there's nothing to do. What we do is we look at some deeper tests. Today's test we're going to be talking about is called the hair tissue mineral analysis. It has been around for decades. I ran this same exact lab when I was 19 years old. And amazing, right? Absolutely amazing that I now get to run this lab with others. And I've done very in-depth study with this hair tissue mineral analysis because, like a lot of people, I have a skeptic's mind. There's no doubt about that. Everything with me is basically guilty until proven innocent. So when I look at this, I'm like, yeah, how's it supposed to work? And I'm, looking at different angles. And then, I did my research. I did my due diligence. I'm saying, okay, this person has this rebuttal. And I'm like, oh, yeah, well, that's because they don't understand it fully. So I studied with Dr. Lawrence Wilson, who, I don't know that there's anybody who has mastered the hair tissue mineral analysis more than Dr. Wilson. I've spoken with him multiple times on the phone. A brilliant man. I'm a proponent of this health field, and I will build up many, many other practitioners, and he deserves his due. I've probably done, I would say, 10,000 or so hair tissue mineral analysis. Not to toot Equilibrium Nutrition's horn or anything like that. I don't think that there's any practice in the world that runs more functional medicine labs really than we do, especially hair tissue mineral analysis, since it's part of our starter kit. But this person today, I read off their symptoms. I'm going to read them one more time. She came in and she said, I can only afford one test. The hair tissue mineral analysis is the least expensive one. These are my symptoms. Would this be enough to get me going? And we responded, absolutely. And don't feel like you need to run more tests if your finances are not able to be there. We totally get that. The labs cost money. They're not covered by health insurance. We understand that. Start here. If you want to run another lab in the future, no problem at all. But what I want to do now is I want to break down this lab because this is a very interesting case study. So I'm going to read off the symptoms one more time. I'm not going to name the person's name, which I've almost said twice now. They are 5'4", 168 pounds, female. Symptoms are irregular menstrual cycle, trouble losing weight, stress, low mood, fatigue, brain fog, low thyroid, rosacea, low libido, slow getting going in the morning. All right? So that is their symptoms. And let's go through the lab now. So the hair tissue mineral analysis is going to look at the minerals in your body. Now, very interesting because for hair tissue mineral analysis, you cut the hair in the back of the head underneath for women, and you'll never see that it's missing. You just take about 3, 4, maybe 5 snips of hair, and you're not going right to the scalp, but you're going pretty close. And what you're doing, they're small snips. You're taking about 1.5 inches of hair, and that will give you about 90 days. So your hair grows at about 1/2 inch per month. So that will give us 3 months of data. Now, if you have plenty of hair to give, sure, you can cut it shorter and you'd be about 2 months of data. But we go for the 1.5 inches, and that allows you to have to cut less hair. So we're looking at a person's 90 days of data. And again, if you cut it at the very end, that's not going to help us very much. That was probably a year ago for women, right? So what we do is obviously people follow the instructions. Now, here's the interesting thing. By looking at the hair tissue and mineral analysis, believe it or not, you can actually see someone's stress-based patterns. And the way that you read that is that the first 2 numbers, calcium and magnesium, are 2 of the 4 electrolytes we look at a hair tissue mineral analysis. Now, those first 2 minerals, we're looking at stress. So we're looking at how stressed are the systems of your body. Now, of course, it's not going to tell us what's stressed. It's not even going to tell us your cortisol levels. That's what a thyroid adrenal hormone test is for, adrenal hormone. But it gives us great data as well because it shows how is the nervous system responding? How is that autonomic nervous system responding? And it will show that by higher excretions of calcium if there is more stress or sympathetic nervous system stress in the body. And the reason is calcium will be elevated with higher levels of stress in the body. We know that from a multitude of factors. You can look at that for calcification of the arteries when someone's under stress, hardening of the arteries. You can even look at that when someone is more stressed and they're pulling calcium from the bones to, people don't like the word realkalize the blood, but maintain a proper pH of the blood. Okay, that goes for eating or drinking certain types of soft drinks that are much lower pH with a lot more phosphoric acid. And again, people don't like to say well, it doesn't affect your pH of your blood. You're right, it doesn't, because the amazing system of the body always balances that pH to about 7.356. But it does that by using minerals. That's one of the biggest ways that your body balances pH. So we look at this, we look at not just the labs, we always listen to a person's story. So there's a true art to functional medicine. It's understanding a person's story, and then it's looking at their labs. And that's why who reads your labs or how you do your labs is very important. Because when you're looking at labs, it has to be looked at in context. It has to be looked at, where is this person in the last 90 days? It doesn't matter necessarily the day they did this lab for hair tissue, but it certainly matters when we ask people, hey, what's your life been like over the last 6 months? Tell us about it. What's the stress been like? How's your eating? How's your nutritionist? Has it been about the same over the past couple of years, or did it change? That's data that we want to know. Well, on this person's, and I keep almost saying the person's name, on this person's lab, their calcium levels, now calcium to magnesium should be in a 6.67 to 1 ratio. There's always more calcium in the body than magnesium. For simple math, you can just use a 7 to 1, and you don't need to know this. The lab already tells you. But this person's calcium was over 170, and their magnesium was only at 12. So if we would just, for simple math, to multiply 7 times 12, we would get 84. It's less than half that of calcium. What does that mean? Well, a person with less magnesium, even though it's above the ideal range, but far less than calcium, is not going to be able to relax as well. They're not going to be able to turn off their mind as well. They might be more prone to muscle spasms. They might have a lower mood. They might have less energy and fatigue. Why? Because magnesium is needed by all those red blood cells as well to produce energy. It's absolutely used by mitochondria. It's absolutely used by all the cells in the body. And it's a vasorelaxer. So it helps to calm the body down, especially after times of stress. So it's crucial, right? It's not even a nice have or it would be great to have. It's a must have. So this person is not saying that they don't have any magnesium. Of course they are. And of course they do. And if you ran blood work, you'd see they have magnesium. The difference is it's at a functionally deficient level. It's there in the body. It's not that it's not, but at a deeper level, it's not in balance with calcium. And I would say, oh, this is just a fluke or whatever, but we've done at least 10,000 of these. I mean, at least. And so what we do in these scenarios is, again, it depends on their symptoms. We're going to look at their energy levels. We would love to give magnesium in the morning as well, but we don't want them to be too relaxed. So what we're going to do is we're going to use probably 1 capsule of magnesium, full spectrum magnesium at lunch, and 2 at dinner. And then we'll talk later if they have trouble sleeping, because it doesn't say trouble sleeping. So if there's no trouble sleeping, we're not going to use our deep sleep protocol, but we will most likely use our Adrenal Soothe product, which has ashwagandha, L-theanine, phosphatidylcholine, most likely at 1 capsule at lunch and 2 at dinner for stress and to calm down that sympathetic nervous system. Okay, next up on a hair tissue mineral analysis is sodium and potassium. Now, this is very interesting because sodium and potassium will show your response to stress. So we look at stress with calcium, magnesium, we'll show response to stress with sodium, potassium. These are the absolute best ways, macro ways of looking at these numbers. There are other ways, but unless you know a person's story, you go by the macro. So what we're looking at right now, this person, so sodium to potassium should be in a 2.5 to 1 ratio. So this person has a 15 for their sodium, and they have a 12 for their potassium. So when we look at that, and I multiply 12 times 2.5, I get 24, I get 30, and their sodium's only a 15. So interesting. You know, again, we're looking at about half, but this time it's upside down. This is called an inverse ratio. Typically, when we see this with people, they're in more of a catabolic state. They've been stressed for quite some time. Their sodium is no longer elevated above their potassium. And oftentimes this can mean lower blood pressure, which can lead to what? Fatigue, paler skin, weakness, lower mood. I mean, these are all go hand in hand when the body has been stressed for some time. If we were to run an adrenal hormone, their cortisol levels might even show that they're starting to go quite low in the morning into lunch, right? And they might get a boost in the evening when they don't want that, right? But definitely in the morning, we see this correlate with lower cortisol. And we usually run multiple labs. This person just ran one, which is totally fine. Again, like, honestly, it's fantastic. It really is. I know I started with the hair tissue mineral analysis and a food sensitivity test way back in the day. And when my family could afford more, then we ran other tests. We ran a stool test and we ran other tests from there. So, you know, again, you can do these in pieces as well. And you can really start to learn about your health. That was great for us to find. And when we saw that, we say, okay, now this person, they want to lose weight, but their body's not losing weight. Here's the problem. They're in more of a catabolic state. Well, you say catabolic state, they should be underweight. True for an ectomorph, for an endomorph, more of that. I don't like to say larger because it's not. When I say that, I really just mean the joint structure. I mean the wrists, the calves, the ankles. It's a thicker bone structure. That's it. It does not mean overweight in any shape or form. However, it does mean that they're more prone often to accumulation. They're more prone to higher blood pressure. They're actually more prone to blood sugar dysregularity. So what we're looking in this scenario is this person very well may be actually tapping into muscle rather than body fat, which is not an ideal place to be. So we would have this person do a simple at-home $20 glucometer to test their blood sugar every morning to make sure they wake up in a true fasted state of blood sugar below a 95. So that's one of the tips we would give this person. Their iron is not elevated and it should not be on a hair tissue mineral analysis, so that's good. Their copper level actually looks pretty good. We're happy to see that. Copper is used for energy, mitochondrial energy, and because we're just relating this back to the thyroid. So that's pretty good. So that's one thing we can cancel off. Their manganese is quite low. This can be used as an energy substrate form. We won't get into that today. Their zinc looks good, so we're happy about that as well, and it's in a good ratio with copper. So then we move on to chromium, and chromium is very low. Now, the interesting thing is this. We see chromium quite low on a lot of hair tissue mineral analysis, and part of the reason is this. There are so few foods right now with higher levels of chromium. I've talked about it before in the Cabral concept, and you can simply go to stephencabral.com/podcast and type in chromium, that's CHROMIUM, and you will learn about its role in helping with blood sugar. Now, for this person and anyone overweight, I'm always looking at blood sugar, always. I'm looking at blood sugar, I'm looking at estrogen, progesterone, I'm looking at thyroid, and I'm looking at cortisol levels for sure. Always looking at those numbers, okay? So we're looking at right here is someone, without a doubt, with lower levels of chromium, okay? Chromium would help with better blood sugar balance. It's not the only thing, but we absolutely want to look at that, okay? And then their selenium. Their selenium is only about 25%, even lower than the chromium of what it should be. Why does it matter if someone's low in selenium? Selenium is an antioxidant used to fight cancer. It's an antioxidant, and it's a mineral that's also used for liver detoxification. Selenium is used for the thyroid. It helps convert thyroid from T4 to activated T3. It's used in a myriad of operations within the body, all of them positive. So this person said they were suffering from low thyroid. Now, until we have the call with them, we don't know their full story because we do ask for, when you run one lab, you get a 30-minute complimentary consultation included with it. And when you run 2 labs, you get a 60-minute. So if it's a 30-minute call, we're asking for the person's story typically for the first 5 minutes or so, just to really learn more about them. And then we'll ask for more, like 10 minutes if it's a 60-minute call. And what we're doing is we'll listen, we'll ask questions based on this lab, like, hey, have you been diagnosed with hypothyroidism or Hashimoto's, or do you just feel like you're low thyroid because you have low thyroid symptoms? So interesting, we'll certainly ask that person that, but the low selenium could absolutely be leading to the low thyroid. And then we look at phosphorus, and this person's phosphorus levels is below the blue ideal zone. Well, what does that mean? Well, it means that this person may not be properly absorbing or breaking down their protein or food, which could absolutely lead to then more of a catabolic-based state. So they could be over-exercising, they could be not taking in enough protein, or they might have really poor digestion. There are other reasons as well, but we're going to go with those for today right now on the podcast. I'll break all of this down, of course, again in the future, different ways to look at it. So we'll ask this person, and we'll absolutely use, again, if we don't have all of our numbers, we'll use daily thyroid support to help support that selenium and the iodine for the thyroid. We'll use daily digestive enzymes to help them better break down their food. We'll give them easier foods to digest. They're good with their copper. They're good with their zinc, so we're happy with that. And the last piece on this hair tissue mineral analysis is looking at toxic metals. Now, their lead was just a pinch elevated, but lead should never be elevated. So it's very interesting. So I'll ask this person, listen, what type of cosmetics are you using? Oftentimes, lead is put into blush or lipstick for women, so we'll want to look at that. We'll want to make sure that they don't have contaminated tap water for the whole family and that there's no lead paint or so in the house, although, adult isn't going to be exposed to that as much unless there's vapors, unless it's like sanded. But we do have an elevated level of mercury and we have an elevated level of aluminum. So without a doubt, this person will be doing a heavy metal detox. It's only 6 weeks long and it works. It's all natural. It uses cilantro. It uses vitamin C. It uses cracked cell chlorella. It uses biofilm disruptors. Absolutely amazing. And it's all based, of course, on science. So here's the thing, though. That mercury, that aluminum may absolutely be one of the reasons their body's inflamed, one of the reasons their immune system's imbalanced, and also one of the reasons why they might be lower thyroid besides the selenium. Remember, there's more than one reason why you can have low thyroid. So what we're going to do is we're going to help this person through a multifactorial approach. We're going to use a detox to open up those liver pathways. We're going to do the heavy metal detox. We're going to use the magnesium and the adrenal soothe a little later in the day to calm this person's sympathetic nervous system and their fight or flight, get that body relaxed, get the mind relaxed. We're going to use digestive enzymes in order to help this person break down more of the good food that they're eating, because we're going to talk so much about nutrition. We're going to get that body moving as well. So we are going to be doing some walking if they're not training at all, exercising at all. We're going to just work up to 10,000 steps per day, and then we will graduate to a couple days a week of some metabolic resistance training, again, based on where they're at. So then at the end of that, I always look back at their symptoms. Did I cover those? Trouble losing weight? Absolutely. This could be from the larger amount of stress in their body, as seen by that sympathetic nervous system dominance, the potential poor absorption, the upside down sodium to potassium ratio, and the low chromium to selenium, which might be throwing off their blood sugar, as well as their thyroid. So they're going to be using what's called our daily foundational protocol, level 3. We'll add the magnesium, we'll add the adrenal soothe, and we will add the daily thyroid support. Now, the nice thing is, how long do we do this for? About 12 weeks. And then we start to wean off the daily thyroid support, wean off the adrenal soothe, and wean down on the digestive enzymes, as well as the magnesium. And we will maintain with some type, either a level 1, level 2, or level 3 foundational protocol, so that they don't slide backwards. So they continue to get the nutrition they need for their body. The daily nutritional support, functional medicine blend right there with all the vitamins, minerals. We'll do the daily fruit and vegetable blend so they get all of their, again, it's 22 superfoods, right? So it's like fruits and vegetables, it's chlorella, it's spirulina, It's just a lot of great items to get the antioxidants up there. We'll use the omega-3s for the mood, for the energy, because we weren't allowed to run all these labs. Now, maybe the person just wanted to get their feet wet, dip their toe in with the hair tissue mineral analysis. Absolutely fantastic. Again, it's where I started, so it's great, right? I remember running the saliva test as well when I was younger, the adrenal hormone lab. So this is great, and it gives them a great place. And the nice thing is, hopefully they check in with their health practitioner in another 4 to 6 weeks after starting the program, and we'll make adjustments as needed. But this lays out a very clear plan, just with the hair tissue mineral analysis, of what to do with this person suffering from trouble losing weight, stress, low mood, fatigue, brain fog, low thyroid, rosacea, which might be more gut-based. We'll address that in the future. Let's get this person going first. And if there's gut-based issues, if there's bloating, we can maybe run an organic acids test in the future. Or in the future, we might do the Candida and bacterial overgrowth protocol. We'll see, right? Let's get this person moving forward. Let's get them a win. Let's help them lose 10, 15 pounds within 4 to 6 weeks. Let's get them what they've been looking for, right? That's the goal. And they're slow to get going in the morning, without a doubt, right? And that's because if you're tired and wired where you're producing more cortisol later in the day and less in the first half of the day, your diphasic rhythm has been thrown off, right? You're supposed to wake up with more energy. And you're supposed to go to bed with less. That's the goal. So we're working on reversing that with the adrenal soothe in the evening and the magnesium in the evening, the full spectrum magnesium. And then what we're doing is we're allowing for an easier to digest breakfast and really fueling the body during the day. So hopefully that was helpful. I would love your feedback again, because I feel like sometimes maybe it was too much or maybe it was presented in the wrong way. So I would love your feedback. I really would. If you would head over to Instagram, that little app on your phone, right? And if you go to Stephen Cabral, just my name, StephenCabral, I would love your feedback, honest feedback, honestly. Like, that's the truth. If you love the show, great. I would love to hear that. If I missed anything, I would love to hear that. If you'd like me to present it from a different angle, if I was too technical, I would like to hear that. Because for me, I'm going through it from a level which I hope that people can really understand. And what I will do is, I don't know if this is possible. I think if we cut off the person's name, we could be able to show this. It's probably too much data. I don't want to present that data too much with people. So what I'm going to do is I will link up what a hair tissue mineral analysis sample report looks like today at 1090. So just head on over to stephencabral.com/1090. I'll link up some of those nutritional supplements. Some are created by Equilibrium Nutrition. Some are created by other companies. And in the lab that we use, we don't own any of the labs. So there's no, in my opinion, there's no issues there, no conflict of interest. Is that Analytical Research Labs is the company we use. Trace Elements also does a great job with the hair tissue mineral analysis as well. I can't recommend any of the others because they wash the hair samples, which actually does change the results. Some of them aren't done in the same way. So a really great lab. It's been around for decades. I mean, it's very easy to look at. All they do is they get your hair sample, they incinerate it, which means they turn it to an ash, just like you would for any food. And then you find the mineral content of your hair, just like you would, again, when you test the minerals in food. So it's nothing crazy. There's no woo-woo out there. It gives you the exact data that we're looking for. And as an integrative health practitioner, all the data matters, right? Because now we're understanding why this person, even if their blood work looks good, we understand some of these underlying root causes that are going on right now that we can absolutely correct, and we can get this person back on track, losing weight, getting well, and as we say, feeling alive again. Hopefully this was helpful. Again, let me know how the podcast was. If you want to comment at our Facebook group, you can as well, cabralsupportgroup.com, or head on over to Instagram and comment on today's post directly, and I read all of those comments. Thanks so much, everyone. And as always, if this podcast was helpful, please do feel free to share it with anyone you believe it could serve. Ever wonder what the best sauna, blue blockers, sleep trackers, wake lights, salt lamps, or other health gadgets are? Or what about the top non-toxic mattresses, sheets, soaps, bath products, toothpaste, and cookware? Or would you like to know the cleanest choices for hemp parts, meal delivery services, supplements, and much more? I personally curated, researched, and now created a resource page of all of my top picks that continues to grow each week. These are the exact products I use in my own life, with my family, in my private practice, and they're the ones I trust. To find out all of my up-to-date recommendations and all the details, simply head on over to stephencabral.com/resources.